The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has released their first quarter small business index, and it shows, in good news, that small businesses are doing better. So let's bring in Tom Sullivan, VP of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to discuss. So Tom, it's always great having you on with us. So I see that the health of small businesses are improving, but what are some of the biggest hurdles that really remain to that health?
Well, the biggest hurdle is getting past the pandemic, obviously. I mean, what we saw in today's MetLife and U.S. Chamber of Commerce survey is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is coronavirus vaccines. What we also found, though, is that it's a long tunnel. We see 6 out of 10 small businesses surveyed saying that it's going to take more than 6 months to recover. And so that is a long tunnel, but advocating for the small businesses, I tend to look at the optimism. And that optimism is that there certainly is a light. That light is the vaccine. And we see small businesses really leaning in to getting themselves vaccinated. 70% of small business owners saying they're going to get vaccinated, and also leaning in getting their employees vaccinated. And that's, for me, that actually was really heartening to see, because the number one reason that we found in this survey of why employers want to get their employees vaccinated is because they care about their employees' health. And why that might be intuitive to me, because I advocate for small businesses 365 days a year, it's nice to see that type of intuitive reasoning kind of shine through these types of reports that we're doing with MetLife.
Okay, I do want to dive into that vaccine portion in just a moment, but I'm curious to know what's causing that disconnect, or what you think is causing that divergence between the fact that the small businesses are doing better, their health has been improving, but again, as you mentioned, though we can see the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel, a lot of these small businesses are not perceiving the economy to be almost as rosy as some other folks are, especially considering that they are doing much better than they were just 6 months ago.
Well, Kristin, you're perceptive on seeing some of the divergence of opinions. Really, two things are happening here. So first of all, we know small businesses are optimistic. They're also pragmatists. Now, keep in mind, in our last survey, over 60% of small businesses said that the worst is yet to come. And that reflects some pragmatism, talking about second waves or the second wave. On the other hand, there's certainly an optimism. The second thing that we see, though, is the difference between the sectors. We're in the middle of a K-shaped recovery. So the upper part of the K, our businesses doing very well. Certainly the construction industry doing very well. The lower part of the K, that is a group that is included in our survey with retail, that includes actually restaurants and hospitality, they're still really struggling. And we need to look specifically at that lower part of the K, try to work with Congress, try to work with the president in the American Recovery Plan to bring up that lower part of the K. But that explains a little bit of the confusion, where on the one hand, there's optimism that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but at the other hand, there's the realization that it is still a very long tunnel to recover, to get past the pandemic.
I know that you're mentioning here that a lot of those small business owners not only plan to get vaccinated themselves, I believe the figure was about 70%, but that they also are interested in helping their employees get vaccinated as well. What are you hearing from when it comes to small business owners about how they plan to navigate a more post-pandemic world? Are vaccinations, and this is something that we talk to a lot of companies about, are they going to require vaccinations from their employees? And what type of flexibility do they plan on giving to some of their employees in a post-pandemic world? Do they also envision, like some of these, major corporations, that a lot of them are going to continue that work from home environment even long after that pandemic is over?
Well, Kristin, in the small business world, there's a couple of challenges we have. So one is that every small business is just a little bit different. So sometimes it's hard to express these generalities coming out of a survey. But when it comes to flexibility, small businesses have an advantage. In past surveys, we found that employees want to work at a small business because of the flexibility. So in that sense, actually, a lot of small businesses are ahead of the curve when it comes to post-pandemic. What we see from this particular survey that we did with MetLife is we know that small businesses are going to be hiring. Now, Kristin, you've covered on your show certainly the pent-up demand, the cash, the savings that's ready to go to kind of have this economy take off. In our survey, small businesses realize that there's pent-up demand, and I think 32% are planning on hiring throughout that year, which is an uptick of about 5 points since the last time we asked. So we know they're going to be hiring, and we know that they're going to be focusing on the flexibility inherent in working at a small business to attract the best employees.
All right, Tom Sullivan, Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Always great chatting with you, Tom.